Let's wind the clocks back a year. Titanfall is just released, and the crowds are going wild. The reviews are positive, the players are content.
What happened?
That's a good question. Not long after the game was released, much of the world forgot about Titanfall. Did Titanfall die? Or is calling it dead even fair? One thing I'm certain of, I can still jump into the game once in a while and have a blast, but the game did fall off the radar faster than anticipated for a lot of people. Were expectations unreasonable? Was it overhyped? Was there mismanagement? Was it a combination of those? I don't think I'm the best Titanfall player, and I don't compete in tournaments, but with MVP in 59.7% of games, top 3 in 86.2%, and a total win rate of 69%, achieved primarily with an SMG most people considered underpowered for several months, I think I'm at least Cardboard League. Personally, I feel how the game is doing isn't a simple absolute, and my feelings are rather mixed, so we'll need to cut beneath the surface to examine the game's heart. And if I've held your attention so far, then I invite you to join me in dissecting Titanfall from release to present, and the changes the game has gone through over the year, to see if we can answer the question of, what happened to Titanfall? Let's begin with the game's support after launch. Titanfall started with a lot of missing features, but several were added over time. A positive example would be private matches. While there wasn't any private match support at launch, it was added in shortly after, and over the course of the year there were also new burn cards, customization options, Titan AI voices, not that you need any other than Jeeves.
Welcome back, pilot. I've kept the seat warm for you.
And the black market where you can buy burn cards, incentive to prestige with bigger decks, and other features added into the game, culminating in the 1-year anniversary, which is, at the time of me recording this, offering all the DLC map packs for free. So that might be something to look into. However, as positive a note as that is, there are also negative examples. At launch, I discovered a glitch that allowed the Titan Charge burn card to be reused to make every Titan every match arrive with a charged core ability without ever spending the card. I disclosed the exploit in a video and posted on Reddit to try and raise awareness in the hope that it would be removed. But to my dismay, it's still in the game a full year later in all its overpowered glory and functions as consistently and reliably as it did a year ago, even when you're using a ranked chip. While I personally swore off using it except for scientific reasons like checking if it had been fixed, I've observed my discovery abused rather than patched, and now question the decision not to try hard ham it up in-game and advertise it as much as possible, since it seems the Illuminati secret society of people who watched my Titanfall videos kept it a closely guarded secret. And unfortunately for me, resisting the temptation was easy because the matchmaking is still awful. It's not as bad as it was on launch day. Teams used to be static, and new people who joined a lobby would be placed on whichever side needed people at the time they joined, causing low-level players to reinforce already losing teams that had depleted numbers, and most matches would be one-sided stomps lasting 5 games in a row or more, and this remained the case months after launch.
We're completely outclassing the militia.
Eventually, team assignments were altered to be decided just before the start of the next match, after most of the players arrived. However, this was still random and lacked any discernible sense of order. I even made 2 separate videos discussing the matchmaking, examining how it functioned, and recommending solutions. And people may wonder, how can massive game-breaking flaws be left in the game for an entire year when there's time to produce and sell 3 different DLC map packs? It almost feels like Titanfall's development was rushed, released early, and basic features like private match support and ranked play had to be added in after launch, and a schedule for implementing other features like Titan insignias and selling map packs was given priority over bug fixes and matchmaking improvements, as such an encumbrance behind the scenes would at least explain things. I'd say the matchmaking improvements and important exploit fixes should have been given top priority. Asking players to wait 6 months to a year or longer for significant exploits to be removed or for matchmaking to function is very unreasonable, and I feel has contributed to Titanfall's loss of players. Which is odd, because during the actual matches, Titanfall did things to balance the game and make losses less frustrating. Instead of kill streaks from Call of Duty, Titan drops and core charges were on timers, and performing better sped them up. But even if you were doing badly, you were still bound to get a Titan in a couple of minutes. Even a fairly low-skill player could be useful to his team if given a little guidance and/or focused on minion farming, and I found that in the early days where new players needed to do the campaign, that giving them a mission briefing would noticeably increase their performance. In addition, for players that felt a loss was unjustified, the evac sequence offered an opportunity to collect end-of-mission rewards if they got to the dropship, and even if you had several losses in a row while being MVP, and would feel irritated at bad teammates, escaping in a dropship while your team is cut down offered both satisfaction and reimbursement. But despite these significant innovations over the Call of Duty model, they don't seem to have been enough to outweigh the other problems. One might also wonder if enough was done to recruit and encourage new players. While I've seen the occasional sale inject population into the game, a week ago when the DLC packs weren't being offered for free, there was no one playing them during prime time on a Saturday on the North American PC version, which probably contributed to the reason they were offered for free. There wasn't much that allowed me to assist new players aside from barking commands to them in team chat. While I was often successful with this, that's not a wide-scale solution. When care packages were implemented in Modern Warfare 2, a player gained the ability to share killstreak awards with teammates, and in the original Call of Duty Black Ops, the Hardline perk allowed them to re-roll low-quality drops to help teammates get better items. I thought so much of this capability that I used it as my standard kit. But this infrastructure doesn't exist in Titanfall. There were no team-benefiting burn cards, nor a way to give cards to teammates, or do much to help them at all. And while Titanfall had tutorials for basic game mechanics, that's really all they covered, and to learn more you had to go hunting around on the internet. Alternate call-ins like gunships or drop pods with more intelligent and powerful grunts or specters or some such that could be assigned to guard someone or something, or otherwise help the team, would possibly have lessened this problem. If one team got all their Titans on the field, that was a significant lead that was difficult for an opposing team to recover from, since their Titans, if dropped one at a time, now had more opponents and would usually die much faster. And even if you spent a rare burn card to call in one yourself, your friends running around on the ground were still probably screwed unless they were top-tier players. This likely added to the frustration a newer, lower-skill player might face, and when launching a game with inherent limitations on where you sell it due to having to take an exclusivity deal to get funding to actually make the game, it needs all the new population it can get, and I feel the lack of those kinds of features was and still is pushing people away. And on that subject, let's consider a game's lifeblood: population. The DLC, which is, as of now, being offered for free, has increased activity, and the Titanfall Reddit is presently hovering at around 100 users at a given time. And for the past few months, it was hovering between 30 and 50 users, with clear signs of habitation, and many posts being upvoted and discussed on any given day. But prior to the anniversary sale on the PC version for North America, you wouldn't find every mode populated, and that unfortunately remains the case after this latest activity boost. So some modes can be considered dead. While you may find population and variety pack, you might not necessarily get the mode you want, so if you were someone like me who liked Pilot Hunter and Marked for Death, and or have a schedule that makes playing during prime time hard, then this may pose an issue for you. However, many games are designed with a single mode or primary mode in mind, such as League of Legends. In Titanfall, the primary mode is attrition, and at present, you can still find a match for it at any time of day on PC in North America, though this brings us to balancing concerns. At one point, I made a Reddit post about the Smart Pistol's ability to rapidly farm minions, since I was concerned it would become dominant in attrition and become the meta weapon for ranked play, since I had tested it and easily obtained scores above 100. But apparently another thread about the Smart Pistol had been posted the day before, so Reddit got upset about the Smart Pistol being discussed, and felt the solution was that the average player just shouldn't play the primary mode that has most of the game's population, or that things won't be changed and should be accepted. While I would agree with the questionable likeliness of further support for the game, ignoring a problem doesn't make it go away, and that in itself is a problem because to a potential new player that's trying to decide if he wants to buy the game, being told to avoid the primary mode could drive the buyer away, which would further aggravate population problems, and while I see many new players, I have to wonder how many will leave after being stomped too many times. I'm told that on console, the population issue is partially mitigated, and higher population helps with matchmaking imbalance, so that might be less of an issue there as well, but I couldn't say for sure, or for how long it would remain the case. I don't think Titanfall can be called a dead game, at least not at present, though significant problems still persist. While I can jump in and enjoy myself once in a while, it's only occasionally because most games are a one-sided stomp for me, and for it not to be that way, either I have to sandbag myself, or I get stuck with particularly bad teammates that feed harder than I can carry them. However, this may not be a problem for everyone, as a lot of needs are highly subjective. But the question of what happened to Titanfall seems to have a fairly simple answer. While there were some balance changes after launch, like the satchel charge nerf and the R97 submachine gun buff, as well as some bug fixes like typing and pressing B bringing up the burn card screen being fixed, and there were some features added and map packs released, other problems that I would consider more significant, like the Titan core charge exploit, were left in the game for over a year and still persist. I feel the support extended to new players, while not terrible, it wasn't as good as it needed to be for a game that was in the position Titanfall was, especially considering the exclusivity deal and inherent population challenges that come as a result. But with that said, I rarely experienced a crash and have never heard widespread technical complaints about the game, so I can see the game continuing to survive for a while. Tournaments and private matches could establish in-house rules about certain burn cards or other items if they so choose, and helpful players can always help new ones learn. I suppose the ultimate conclusion is that the game had dysfunction with population retention systems and errors in prioritization and support after launch. That doesn't make it a bad game or a dead game, it just is what it is, and that has consequences. But I can see why enthusiastic players can keep playing every day, and I can also see why others gave up on Titanfall after a month. Since problems have subjective degrees of severity, they will have different results for different people. Personally, I'll probably still hop in for a round or 5 once every few weeks if I'm in the mood, at least for the time being. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I leave you. Thanks for watching, and if you can find it in the goodness of your heart to share the love with the occasional new player in a video game, Papa Balthazar offers you +1 internet points. I'll see you next time. Later, YouTube.
You killed the marked enemy.